Christmas trees are grown.
Welcome back to the 2022 Halloween Spooktacular. I am Alex. I have already done a couple of reviews here. They know who I am.
Wait, rewind. And welcome back to the Halloween Spooktacular.
Did I say Halloween Spooktacular? All right, then.
We're here to talk
I'm
about
keeping that in.
Christmas.
I'm sorry. I'm keeping that in. Welcome back to the 2022 Christmas Cheertacular. Dude, I'm so used to Spooktacular, you know?
I know, man. That was fun.
Yeah.
Can't wait for next year.
Yep. Currently without a microphone, so bear with me. Still going to be an echo. You might hear traffic in the background too, so don't freak out. I've stated that before on one of my other videos, so you guys know the drill by now. We are going to be talking about some Christmas movies. We are wearing Christmas shirts. I have a couple of ugly Christmas sweaters I did not choose to wear. I also do not have a Santa hat like my colleague over here. Pat, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm recovering from like a week and a half of being sick right now, so my voice is still a little scratchy, but
Yeah.
I'm alive and I'm full of Christmas cheer.
There you go. I mean, were you watching Christmas movies in that week?
Does the first Chronicles of Narnia sort of counts as a Christmas movie, right?
It does.
And I did watch some other Christmas. I watched Faust again, 2019. That's a good movie.
Too bad for you. You had to suffer through the third Narnia.
Yeah, I'd never seen that one. That was really bad.
That is not a Christmas movie, and that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we are here to talk about the greatest Christmas trilogy of all time. Maybe is it the only Christmas trilogy?
I want to say it's the only Christmas trilogy until Kurt Russell gets off his ass and makes Christmas Chronicles 3.
Exactly. We could have had it. We could have had a Home Alone trilogy if Macaulay Culkin came back. We could have. Yeah. Mine's right here in the background.
In the terms of the greatest trilogies of all time, Lord of the Rings, the Santa Claus.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Nothing tops, other than Lord of the Rings, nothing tops it.
No.
Wait, you're telling me that the Buttercream Gang wasn't the greatest trilogy of all time? It's not a trilogy. I don't even know what that is.
I'm like, what? Who?
Yeah, so let's get right into The Santa Claus, which came out in 1994. Christmas classic?
Yeah, this is a childhood classic. I know Tim Allen is very controversial these days, and his politics are not something I particularly tend to agree with. But that movie is such a classic.
Oh, it's so much fun.
It fills me with so much Christmas joy. It's like a staple every year. I at least have to watch the first one.
Yeah. I rewatch it maybe like every few years, maybe. Like, I think this is I don't watch this trilogy every year, which I should.
I don't watch 2 and 3 every
year. Yeah. But, like, even the first one I don't really watch every year, so it's not, I don't think it's as well known to me as it is to you. But every time I watch it, I really love it, despite how cheesy it is.
Oh, yeah. It's so cheesy, but, like, in, like, that fun 90s kind of way.
Exactly. Like, every movie in the 90s was like this. Dude, and also, I miss Disney movies like this, man. Where it's like you could get away with a lot more in a Disney movie, like that whole line where they're sitting in with the principal at the school, and it's like, well, what did Charlie do last night? I don't know, maybe had a couple of nips, bottle of liquor. Like you don't hear that anymore in a Disney movie, you know?
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, it's one of those movies where it's a very emotional movie. Like the concept of it is very emotional. It's a typical 90s movie where there's the dad who's divorced or the dad who's works too much and he's struggling to have a relationship with his son, like in Hook, like a Jiggle All the Way. Except this dad, Mrs. Doubtfire, this dad, it's like, oh, he's already divorced. He's already, he doesn't really spend that much time with his son. He's too busy.
He's kind of a Scrooge.
Yeah, I mean, rewatching it, like, you realize Scott Calvin has like a really good arc in this movie, which I think is what makes it work. Yeah. He's so unlikable in the beginning. He's just this like schmuck. And then by the end of the movie, I'm like, yeah, you're Santa. I can believe that.
Exactly, yeah, because the movie does the smart thing where it gradually like makes him start to believe in Christmas. Yeah. You know, it's not like he puts on the Santa suit and then right away he's like, oh, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. He's like, what the hell is this thing, you know?
What's happening to me? A little wait. No,
What does
it's
your diet consist of? I don't know, chocolate cookies, brownies, milk.
yeah. Or I love when he's at his like corporate meeting and once he's
Yeah.
turning into Santa, and he's just like ordering all these desserts, all extra hot fudge, and the guy's like, "What the hell's happening to you, man? Get like a dietitian or something."
Yeah. Yep.
It's a cool concept, like the idea of like becoming Santa kind of against your will. Like you
Yeah,
just
like
kind of
having
get
there being like clause, you know? Like that's
yeah,
what it's not about like Santa Claus. Like it's about like a clause as to how you become Santa. And
with
the
an
thing
E,
you
with
know,
an E.
yeah, and I mean, I guess it's for all three. More so the first two, but all three of these movies, like I like how there's like expansion of these clauses, you know, in all three of these movies, where it's like, okay, there might be a way out, but there's not necessarily a way out.
There's even an expansion on it in the new TV show as well.
I haven't seen the new TV show yet. I gotta watch it.
Yep.
I heard it's really good.
I've seen
Um,
the first 3 episodes. It's pretty enjoyable. It's a lot like the movies, you know?
yeah, yeah, dude. The thing I love about Scott Calvin in this, like, despite him being like unlikable for like the first half of the movie,
Mhm.
is when he gets snarky and snappy. That's when the jokes are funny.
Oh, yeah. I love just him, like, first going to the North Pole, and he's like, "This is ridiculous. Like, what are you talking about?" And they're all, like, just expecting him to be Santa. Like, it's
Yeah,
not a question. It's, "No, you're Santa. That's how this works.
yeah.
So, like, just suck
Bernard,
it up."
Bernard, chef's kiss, man.
Bernard was the best, man.
Yeah,
But as a kid, and we'll get into it with the second one, but I mean, there's 8 years between the release of the first one and the second one. I never noticed how much older Bernard looks until, like, right this time
yeah,
watching it, I'm like,
yeah.
back watching it back to back, I'm like, "Holy crap, look at he looks way older."
Dude, does he come back at all? Thank God. Is
He,
Curtis?
looks
Please tell me
very
Curtis
old
does
now.
not come back.
Who?
Please do not tell me Curtis comes back.
And so far, not what I've seen,
Oh,
man.
thank God. But
Uh,
back to our regularly scheduled
well,
program.
the first one has a scene that always gets me, and it's, like, the music and, like, the atmosphere that I feel like just overwhelming Christmas, like, magic is when they first get to the North Pole, and that music is like, "Da, da,
And then the
da,
pole like
da,
slowly
da,
comes
da,
up.
da." Yeah, that kid, the elf walks out just by himself, and the music's all, like, magical, and then the North Pole comes up, I'm like, "This
Well,
is
dude,
amazing!"
What's that? I don't know. I think it's the North Pole.
That's the North Pole? Hey, buddy, we need some help. Hello? What are you doing?
Close your eyes and come. Christmas bells ringing
dude, that's the thing. That's the thing about like Santa's Village and the North Pole in this movie. It's so imaginative and storybook like. Like it's essentially what you dream of the North Pole being as a
It's
kid.
very quintessential, like, the
Right.
best toy factory ever
Right.
inside of an igloo.
Like I want to live there.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be amazing.
It's just
I could
very,
I could just have Santa manufacture me Blu-rays all the
but,
time.
I mean, even, like, I like a lot of the side characters in this movie too, because as hard as it is to watch, like, his ex-wife and Neil, like, tell Charlie that he's, like, essentially going crazy and that his dad's corrupting him, like, Neil's hilarious. I'm
He's an
sorry, that
asshole,
dude
but he's
is
hilarious. He's
he's
hilarious.
hilarious. Him and his goddamn sweaters and his psychiatrist doctorate.
Yep. This is the best thing for him right now.
And the first one's fun too because it's mostly like there's not like a villain. There's not like
Right.
it's the clause itself and like the obstacles that he has to overcome to like be Santa. And
Exactly.
it's like
That's the
between
conflict. That's what I love about it.
yep, the heart of it is all between a dad who just wants to give his son a good Christmas and be like a good dad,
Yeah.
and it's got a lot of heart. The first one, it's got a lot of heart. Yeah, people can be
We
like,
can't
"Oh, the
stop here.
effects."
We can't stop here. There's no chimney.
Yeah. Oh, the effects haven't aged well. It's like,
No,
who
not at
cares?
all. But I'm like,
Who
but you know what?
cares?
It's 1994. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Like You can't expect that much
Yeah,
from
I love when when they first get to the reindeer. I think it's Comet that like gives him like the look. And he's like, "Did you just growl at me?" Like, I love how Comet hates him. It's
I
amazing.
just I love that what launches this whole thing is that Santa dies. It's like, you hit Santa, you killed him.
You know who that was? That was Tim Allen's stunt double. That
Oh,
played
really? Was
Santa.
the dead
Yeah.
Santa?
Yep. The dead Santa was his stunt double. Yeah.
Which it's funny because this movie doesn't really address a lot of the questions that like you might have of what happened to that Santa. Like,
Exactly.
but the new show actually goes out of its way to address like, or to at least ask those questions of like, did that Santa have a Mrs. Claus? What happened to her? Like, why did the elves not really care when he died? Nobody ever mentioned him. Nobody, they were perfectly content with just being like, okay, you're
No,
the
the
new
North
Santa.
Pole's
Let's
too
go."
happy, man. But
Yeah, it's such a.
but yeah, I
I
think
used to watch this all the time as a kid. It was super
I had the
magical. And
VHS.
I still feel that magic when I watch this movie.
Yeah,
Despite some aged like things, you know. It's
dude,
still
like I mean, I think it's just because of that storybook imaginative vision of the North Pole. Like it's like it captures that Christmas spirit, you know.
yeah. And watching him like have to transform and deal with the transformation is actually really funny.
Dude, like when he's sitting on the bench at the soccer game,
And the
it's
little
a-
girl just comes out. It's hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah, but there is like the emotional heart. You know, I still feel sad when his visitation rights to Charlie get taken away. I'm like, Jesus,
I
have a
know,
heart.
right? Jesus.
Like, oh, forgive your son for believing in Santa. Jesus.
I know.
Or that one kid who's like, you're telling me if I want to be the next Santa, I just have to push you off a roof.
Well, the thing I like about Scott Calvin too, that this movie established is that like he's supposed to be Santa Claus down the line who makes toys, but Scott Calvin also works for a toy company.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a nice little parallel to like Santa, and then like he's Scott Calvin, so his initials are SC. You
Yeah.
know,
And I like that even like his perspective as like a toy maker changes because you get the impression in the beginning of the movie he just does whatever is going to make them money, and then when he goes back and he's already kind of becoming Santa, he's like, "Oh, that's a great idea! Have Santa roll up in a pantser. You can't not have the reindeer."
But
So
yeah,
good.
this one's definitely a Christmas classic for me.
Oh, it's so good. Like it's top 10
It's
Christmas
perfect.
movies.
Yeah, it's perfect. Maybe not perfect, but you know.
It's a fun time and it's emotional and it gets me in the Christmas mood, which is going into the sequels. What I kind of want to preface, my scale of Christmas movies is
Right.
different than like regular film. All right, I
Right.
can forgive a Christmas movie for not being a good movie if it gets me in like a Christmas spirit. All right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Which
Is
is how
Jingle All the
I
Way
think.
the best movie?
Which
No,
is how
but
I,
I love it.
which is how I think a Christmas movie should be judged anyway.
Exactly. Like I'm not saying that Santa Claus is like Academy Award worthy. I'm saying
Hey,
it's a great
we put this on the same level as Lord of the Rings here.
yeah, that's kind of how I always scale Christmas movies.
Yeah, so speaking of like our expectations, let's get into the Santa Claus 2. Not as good as the first one, nowhere near as good as the first one. I still have fun with it. I think where the movie loses me a little bit is not enough Bernard and more Curtis. I don't really like Charlie in this one. He's an asshat.
Yeah, he's this little punk
Yeah,
teenager.
and then honestly, like I'm more interested in evil douchebag toy Santa, like all those scenes, than I am with like Scott Calvin trying to find a Mrs. Claus.
Okay.
Well, other than that, like I still enjoy it, you know.
My thoughts on Santa Claus 2, it's definitely a mixed bag. It's
Yeah.
definitely nowhere near as good as the first one.
Yeah.
I I like the concept that he has to like seek out a Mrs. Claus. What I don't like is that they like force this marriage upon this poor woman.
I
Where
know.
like,
Within 5 minutes.
they went on like one date, and then they're like, "Oh shit, we have to save Christmas. We have to get married right now." She's like, "What?" And they're like, "If you don't, Christmas dies." And she's like, "Okay, I guess I'll save Christmas."
I guess I have to do it.
Yeah, like that's just like, oh. But this, I'm a little bit different from you, where the toy Santa is funny in parts. I think I think the concept's funny. I think Tim Allen does a pretty funny job with it, as crazy and disturbing as it is. Um, but I actually prefer the scenes with Scott trying to find a wife, like that scene where he's on that date, and that woman's like, "Man, I
Oh,
feel
yeah, she's
like
doing like the
Christmas."
dance.
I freaking die every time because his face is just like, and he's like, I got it. You don't support me. You don't support my ambitions. I guess that's what we're. But like, even it's in those scenes when Scott's looking for Mrs. Claus that the magic of the first one kind of comes back to me,
Okay.
where like the scene where he takes her on the sleigh ride, and then he has it start snowing just over them.
Okay, we have Coco. We have a blanket. We have a horse-drawn sleigh. The only thing that's...
What?
It's snowing.
Oh. As if by magic.
That's what I was gonna say, that it should be snowing.
It's
Yeah.
like so magical.
It
And I
does,
love
yeah.
the scene. I love when he does the Secret Santa thing and he starts
Oh, that
giving all
scene's
her
great.
coworkers, yeah, like what they always wanted. Like that's amazing.
That brings so much more life to that scene because everybody's just like at a Christmas party. They're like, and then he's just like, all right, how about Secret Santas? And they're all getting presents of like the stuff that they wanted as kids.
Yeah, they
That's
remember what
amazing.
it's like to believe in Santa, to believe in Christmas, and to be kids.
Yep.
It's a very good scene. Like I was watching it today, I'm like, damn, this is magical. And like
Yeah,
she's just like, how did you do it? He's like, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like the sequels for the Santa Claus get the reputation of being like they're awful, but it's like you have scenes like this in this one, and maybe like a couple scenes in the third one. Not so much, but where it's just that's what the movie needed. It delivered that spirit of Christmas.
I think the Santa Claus movies, the sequels are at their best when they remember that the first one wasn't some like zany like Christmas like North Pole shenanigans.
Yeah.
Where it's more like you center it, you bring it back to Scott Calvin a bit, and you bring it back to like the heart of the story of like this one guy who has to be Santa, but he is a normal guy. He's like that is Santa, but so when it brings that back in the second one for me, those scenes are the scenes I prefer. That's when I remember like, oh yeah, this is a Santa Claus sequel. Like it's not just the elves trying not to get attacked by giant toy soldiers.
Dude,
on like little
don't
snowmobiles.
those toy soldiers remind you of the Nutcrackers?
Yeah.
Like if our Nutcrackers came to life, like
Yeah. I liked that. I thought those toys. I thought the whole concept of the toy Santa as the villain is pretty creepy.
yeah,
Like he becomes like this like essentially, I'll say it, toy Santa is Ultron. Okay, he's too good at his programming.
Well, okay. Here's a reason why I hate Curtis too. Curtis is essentially the reason why douchebag toy Santa exists.
True, he creates him in that machine.
Asshole. He's Tony Stark.
But toy Santa, he's very off-putting because he's made up like one of those like
He looks like porcelain.
Yeah, like remember that Santa that used to be a Bop Cheese that would dance?
Yes.
He looks like that, and then at the end credits of this movie, he's with those Santas. And I'm like,
Yeah. Well, and then it's just the fact that he smiles too much too.
and like the fakeness of the beard,
Yeah.
and the fakeness of the skin, it's really like off-putting.
Delicious. I want more cocoa.
Yeah, but I also like the fact that Tim Allen just couldn't resist. Right, he's playing a toy again, so of course in the final battle, he's like, "You are a sad, strange little man," and I'm like, "Hey."
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one, I definitely prefer the Mrs. Claus parts besides the fact that like I said, the whole romance of it is super like kind of off-putting because it's like marry me now or Christmas is over.
Do it now, bitch.
But I love her. I think Carol's great in the movie.
Yeah.
I think she's just an interesting character, and I really felt those scenes where she's talking about like why she doesn't really believe in Santa anymore. You know,
Yeah.
he kind of
Exactly.
brings that back into brings that childhood back to life. I don't know. So
Yeah.
I think this movie is definitely not a bad movie. I think it's
No.
definitely worse than the first one though.
Yeah, for sure. This also introduces one of your least favorite characters.
Curtis or Lucy?
Both.
In this
Just
one,
said two of your least favorite characters. Because now that once you said Curtis or Lucy, I was like, wait a minute, both.
this one also introduces like the concept of like the other legendary figures as well.
Oh yeah. That's what I love. There's essentially this Jedi Council, but with holiday characters like
Yeah.
the Tooth Fairy,
Yeah.
Cupid,
Easter Bunny.
Mother Nature,
Sandman.
Sandman. Yep.
It's essentially Rise of the Guardians.
Yeah, essentially live action.
Yeah.
And then they all come back for the third one
Yep.
with Jack Frost. So that's a good segue to the third one. Jack
Yeah.
Frost is the greatest cinematic villain of all time.
Thank you. Jack Frost, Martin Short, bless his heart, he tried really hard to make this movie work. You could tell he was trying. He was really trying
And
to
dude,
do
the thing is too, you kind of understand where Jack Frost is coming from.
Yeah, why does he get gypped? You know?
Yeah. Like he's just like, why does everybody else have a holiday, but I don't? I want a holiday.
I know. I'm just a leading man. And when he brings that up, they're all like, yeah, you're just the guy who leads up to it. So like stay in your fucking place. And he's like, okay, I guess.
And then he goes all like multiverse of madness on them.
Dude. Oh my god. So Santa Claus 3, let's just get out of the way. Not a good movie.
No.
It's the zany parts of the second one ramped up to like 1 million.
Yes, for sure.
The first hour of this movie is just shenanigans at the North Pole.
It's boring, kind of.
It's just, oh, the in-laws are coming, which I do like the joke of, we're going to tell them we're from Canada.
Yeah,
and
exactly. I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
We're from Canada.
Yeah.
Like that part's amazing.
Yeah.
But the actual, like, they spend so much of the movie with just him trying to, like, please the in-laws, and then Jack Frost is like messing shit up, and then they're trying to fix that, and then there's turmoil. And the interesting part of the movie doesn't come until like the last third.
Yeah, which is like the last half hour.
And then they don't spend enough time with it.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, when they bring it back to Scott Calvin,
yeah,
it's the best stuff. And it's not like great, but it's like the most interesting part of it.
Because it's like, well, what if Scott Calvin didn't put on the suit? What if it was Jack Frost?
Yeah, it was really interesting, like to see him show up back to his ex-wife's house, and him and Charlie don't have a relationship.
Yeah.
Her and Neil are divorced.
Yeah.
And so him and Lucy don't have a relationship, and then Jack Frost has turned the North Pole into a resort, and it's awful and corporate, and it's like it's got this terrible show tune. Yeah, it's one of those things where I just think if they had made more of the movie
yeah.
If it had been earlier in the movie that Scott got transported there,
they should have been Shrek 4, but with Santa Claus.
Yeah, like take the first half hour to introduce Jack Frost and his, resentment, and then bring the in-laws, but then spend way less time like having Jack slowly chip away at him, and instead just have Jack have like a quicker plan to get to the escape clause.
Yeah,
it felt like I was watching it this time, and I was like, man, there's really not much going on in this movie.
No, there's not. That's this was the one out of the three where I noticed I'm just like, I'm going to browse Twitter for about 5 minutes, and I missed nothing.
Yeah, and then once it gets to that part of the movie, I actually really like the idea that the third one of the trilogy, like the concluding movie, we go back to that moment where, hey, you! And like he falls off the roof, like, them fighting while young Scott is over there becoming Santa, like that's a cool thing to like bring it around to.
Yeah.
But the movie just takes too long to get to that plot stuff.
Right.
And then by the time it does, there's not much movie left, so you just kind of rush to the end.
Well, the thing is like that whole thing. So once Jack Frost goes like all multiverse of madness and shit, like when he's Santa and creates like the North Pole in that like alternate reality where Scott Calvin's hated by Charlie, Laura, and Neil. It's like that. I don't even think that that's the entire last third. That's probably like only 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and then
probably.
the last 15 minutes are, hey, we got to deliver the baby. So that's it.
Oh, we gotta have Lucy hug Jack Frost. Listen, okay, Lucy is annoying. I'm sorry. I try not to be judgy of child characters or child actors because it's tough to find them.
But you have two of them in this movie. Curtis too.
They try to make Lucy just so cutesy, and oh my god, Uncle Scott! I'm like, stop. Charlie worked because he wasn't like that. All right, Charlie was just a kid. And Lucy, they're trying too hard.
Right, and then I think where this movie also falters too is you don't only not bring back Bernard. Like he's not in the movie. You don't only do that, but there's not even a single mention of him. Like what happened to Bernard?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen. I know he's in the Santa Clauses, but I haven't seen the actual episode where he's in.
Yeah.
So maybe they explain it then. But yeah, as far as this movie goes, they don't mention it at all.
Yeah, that was something that rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, because you could tell in the second one they were setting Curtis up to replace him, and then he essentially was the replacement.
It felt like R and Q in the world.
Yeah. That's actually another cool thing too when you think about it. Like the North Pole in the factory is essentially Q's workshop.
Yeah. But Jack Frost, I think, is the thing that I like most in this movie.
Same.
Like
Martin Short knew what role he was playing, and he was up for the task.
He wasn't given like a lot of great lines, but he was trying to make every line he had great. He was really trying. He was like, "What do I get? Runny noses and some dead citrus." Like that. Like he was trying. He was trying so hard, and I love his design.
Yeah,
I love the icy hair, the icicle tie, the frosted suit.
Amazing.
Like, he looks cool. I like
his cinematic villain of all time.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunate that it didn't have like the best ending for the trilogy.
Yeah.
But the Santa Clauses so far has been pretty good, so maybe that'll give like a good epilogue to all this.
Yeah.
But
I might watch a few episodes after this.
You should. It's been pretty good. It's been interesting.
That's good.
And I guess the last episode just premiered, so I guess it's over.
I was like going into this day, I was like, I'm definitely gonna watch the Santa Clauses, and then I said, after I do that, do I try and binge the entire series in the same night? But I don't know how long the episodes are.
They're each like a half hour-ish.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Fuck watching Avatar tonight.
Well, you're seeing Avatar tonight?
I'm seeing the second one tomorrow.
Oh yeah, you're watching the first one.
I was gonna watch the first one today.
That's right. Yeah. It's been interesting. I mean, I was just shocked when they announced like we're doing a sequel to Santa Claus as a TV show, and Tim Allen's back, and Carol's back, and I'm like, what?
Give me a fourth movie.
It's weird that the second one took so long to come out after the first one. I know, like,
yeah. Well, I feel like for a while they thought it was just going to be a one and done thing.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it probably should have been.
Yep.
But at the same time, I don't hate these. I mean, maybe 3 is bad, sure, but I don't hate myself for watching the Santa Claus 3. It's one of those movies that's bad, but you don't feel like after it,
Yeah, it's one of those where I'm just like, I'm enjoying myself while it's on. I'm getting the Christmas vibes I like.
Yeah.
Even though I can cringe at a lot of the terrible jokes and a lot of the stupid, like zany, cartoony parts. But yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. And around Christmas time, dude, I am so lenient on Christmas movies.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Like, as long as it gives me like a little bit of Christmas feeling, I'm like, hey, you did your job.
That Lindsay Lohan one didn't do it.
No, that wasn't a good movie. But I'm glad she seems to be doing better.
Yeah. Yeah. What else did Spirited didn't really do it for me either.
Yeah, Spirited was... It had a couple good moments.
That's why I was like, I'm watching the Santa Claus trilogy today. And put me in the Christmas spirit now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's our retrospective. Earl, do you have anything else to say, first of all?
I got nothing else to say. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's a fancy looking
Oh,
one.
this is the Disney Movie Club exclusive one.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I love the first one. The sequels I can watch and enjoy. But the first one, Christmas classic for sure.
I gotta put this down because now I'm just gonna start playing with it. Like a toy. Yeah, I agree. The first one, I mean, especially on this rewatch, I've noticed the first one. I was like, yeah, I like this a lot more than I think I've previously liked it. So yeah, and then the second one, I've always kind of been like slightly more positive than mixed, and then the third one, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, it's got Jack Frost.
yeah, that's the reason to watch the third one. So yeah, so that's gonna conclude the retro. Somebody's dying out there. That's going to conclude our retrospective of the Santa Claus trilogy. Pat, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at this Pat Guide. YouTube, Agamotto is the YouTube channel. Talking movies and TV shows and stuff.
Awesome. You can find me at my official website, alexmaddenmovies.mystrikingly.com. All my social media links are there. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. I'm Alex. That's Pat. We'll see you at the movies somewhere.
Charlie!